All right, after that lick, he gets into a pretty blistering kind of pentatonic blues run, and that's basically this. And so he bends that 18th fret up on the E string a whole step and back down. And this is where he actually pulls his pick out from his finger. Everything up until that point was with the thumb and the chicken picking. Then this is where he pulls the pick out. And now, I'm 97% sure I got this lick right. There's like one or two notes that you kind of don't hear perfectly. And that's just because of the dynamics of the chords and the notes going by so fast and everything that's going on and the drum beats and all that kind of stuff. Once in a while, you won't hear a certain note. So anyway, that run after the bend is, again, all out of G pentatonic with this flat 5 in there. So it's the 15th fret of the E note of the E string to the 18th to the 15 on the B string, and you do that twice. So it's, and then it's the 17th fret of the G string bent up a half step, and you get that typical Chuck Berry. So you have, and that's barring the 15th fret on the B and the E string. Then you pull off again from the 18 to 17 or 18 to 15 on the B string, and then you walk down from 18, 17, 15 on the G string. So it's and now again he throws in the chicken picking when he bends that note. He plucks these two strings with his middle and ring finger. So it's, so after he goes down that run, he goes to the 17th fret of the D string, rolls up to the 17th fret of the G string, pulls off to the 15th fret of the G string, back down to the 17th fret of the D string. So that's, then he goes up to the 15th fret of the G string to the 17th fret of the G string, and slides down to the 12th fret of the G string, and then pulls off to the 10th fret of the G string. So that whole thing is, and now if you thought of this whole thing in this G minor pentatonic, now you could think he moved down to this pentatonic, because that was the 12th fret to the 10th fret. Now he throws in the 11th fret to the 12th fret on the D string, and that's basically in the G minor pentatonic, that's the flat 5 to the 5th. So that's, then he rolls over onto the 12th fret of the G string. So that whole thing is, then he goes to the 11th fret on the D string, slides down to the 10th fret. Again, that's the flat 5 to the 4th on the D string. Then he does a little trill between the 4, flat 5, and 4. So that's 10, 11, back to the 10 on the D string. And pulls off to the 8th fret of the D string. So that whole thing is, I'm sorry. Then he goes down to the A string and plays 10, 8, 10. So, and goes back up to that 8th fret on the D string. Then he walks down chromatically from the 10, 9 to the 8. So that whole thing. Then he goes to the 10th fret of the E string, slides down to the 8th fret to the 6th fret and bends up a half step on that 6th fret. Now, on here, he's walking down, again, if you think of G minor pentatonic, he's walking down from the root to the major 7 to the minor 7. So again, that whole thing is... Then he goes up to that 6th fret again, from the 6th fret bend to the 8th fret, slides down to the 3rd fret, pulls off to the 1st fret, and then he starts the whole chord thing on the G note of the E string 3rd fret. So that's basically sliding into the flat 7 back to the root. Now, the way I practiced this whole thing to get it kind of up to tempo was, again, very much, I did it with a metronome. After I figured out all the notes, I just took it really slow with the metronome, and I went... I worked it up a little faster. Now, I had a problem with that little flat 5 little trill thing and then the chromatics. That was giving me a problem. So I really took it slow and finally got it up to tempo. So anyway, so let's end on... So then it gets to this little... chordal thing, which is basically going between that last part where it's a half a measure of G7 to a half measure of C7, a half measure to G7, all the way up to the 5, which is the D7, sharp 9 kind of thing. So it starts with, which is just your the 3rd fingers on the 3rd fret of the E string. Then you play the open string on the D string. Back down to the 3rd fret, to the G note on the E string. Up to the open G string. So it's back down to that G note again. So it's... Then he plays the 3rd fret of the D string. Then he pulls off. He pulls off to an open note and hammers on the 2nd fret of the D string. So that whole thing is... And here he plays that 2nd fret of the D string to the open G string, back to the 2nd fret of the D string to the C note, which is the 1st fret of the B string. So the whole thing is... And I think it even goes back down to that E note on the D string. So now what that's really doing is it's outlining the G chord. Then it's going to that major 3rd of the C. And then it's playing the root up there of the C. So it's really outlining these chords really well. First you have the G chord, which is all G, within the G major chord. And that's the 7th note of the dominant chord, which leads to the 3rd of the C major chord. Then when he goes back to that G chord, he does the minor 3rd to major 3rd thing where he grabs the 3rd fret of the G string. So it's... And he bends that up a half step and then releases to an open note, which is again minor 3rd to major 3rd, to the root, all of the G chord. So you really hear those chords. And then he nails again the root of the G with the G note on the 3rd fret of the E string. Then he goes into the, which this all outlines that the 5 chord, which is a D7 chord, D7 sharp 9 actually, and what he's doing, he's bending that. If you know the D7 sharp 9 chord, which is the 2nd finger plays the 5th fret of the A string, 1st finger's on the 4th fret of the D string, 3rd finger's on the 5th fret of the G string, and your pinky plays the 6th fret of the B string. And that's your Hendrix chord. So that's just, instead of E, it's on a D. Now this lick outlines that chord perfectly, just like the other 2 did. It's starting basically on the 5th fret of the B string and bending up a half step. And what that's doing, it's bending up this, the 9th, to the minor 3rd, which is actually what your pinky is playing in this chord. And then it walks down. The next note is your root note, your D note. Then it walks chromatically down to the 6th of the chord and bends up a half step to the flat 7, which makes that dominant 7 chord, the flat 7. So and yeah, so that's the whole lesson. At least that's the first section, and that's there's so much cool stuff. What I would do is, again, take all those things, take any one of those things. One of the main ideas is, besides like outlining chords, try and do licks which out-target the main notes of the chord, the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, that kind of thing. And then also take those bends, those 1.5-step bends to slides and pull-offs, and do that in your pentatonic scale. Say you have, we'll do A minor pentatonic. So you have, and I haven't tried this yet, so if you have that, and you want to bend this note up here, that note, instead of doing something like that, try bending up that whole step and then pulling off all those notes. So you don't release the bend until you slide to that 8th fret, and you get this long kind of chromatic-y kind of thing. So you get and you end on that note. Try that in a bunch of different positions, on a bunch of different scales, and just start throwing in the idea. That's the best part about tearing apart these lessons, because when you break them down and you see the elements of what really catches your ear, it's great to learn just that lick or something, but the tendency of using just that lick when you think of it just in a lick way is you probably won't. So the best thing to do is really break down and take one specific area, like a bend like that, and instead of releasing the bend, you slide down, then release the bend, and start throwing that into your soloing. And eventually that'll become a part of your soloing. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really had fun doing that one. That was I'm glad a lot of people, I hadn't seen the video. I had a lot of people email me and say, hey, check out this video. Maybe you could do a lesson on this. So thanks for sending that, guys, because it's really a cool lesson. I'd like to do the entire lesson, but I'm going to wait to hear back from the guys at Bend Note, because if they are going to break it down like this, I don't want to encroach on their kind of stuff. But if they're not, I would definitely like to do the rest of the lesson, because there's a few other licks that he does in there that are just amazing. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks again for watching these things. Thanks again for all your comments and your thumbs up and subscribing and stuff. You guys are really great. I've really enjoyed communicating with you guys and emailing back and forth too. So keep it up. If you like this, thumbs up, subscribe, do all those kind of things. It helps us know that you guys really like this and you want more of this stuff. So Check us out on the next lesson, and check out guitarbreakdown.com. I'm going to be working on that this weekend. Hopefully I'll have something up in the coming week. And I will see you on the next lesson. Thanks again, guys.